If you want to do MVVM in your Xamarin.Forms application, there is a couple of frameworks that can make your life significantly easier, and I'm going to tell you in this video about my favorite one, FreshMVvm. Now, before we get started, there is a lot of great options for MVVM frameworks. There is Prism, there is MVVM Cross, MVVM Lite was a thing at some point, but I think that's now in the Windows Community Toolkit as communitytoolkit.mvvm, I think, something like that. There's also Tiny MVVM now, and they all do kind of the same thing, but they offer like a little bit more features, a little bit less features. And the thing that made FreshMVvm stand out to me, because this is basically the framework that I've used throughout all my apps, is that it is designed specifically for Xamarin.Forms. So, you know, like MVVM Cross, it supports a lot of platforms. It has existed way before Xamarin.Forms was actually a thing. And that is kind of also the feeling that I have, right? It's adapted to work with Xamarin.Forms, and it has a lot of stuff that can really benefit you if that's what you need. But Xamarin.Forms also already has a lot of MVVM stuff in the box. It also already has data binding. It already has, like, you know, the XAML stuff for the binding. What else? It already knows about the notify property changed. So it already has a lot of stuff, but it just needs a little bit of glue there in between to make it even easier. And FreshMVvm did that for me. Now, FreshMVvm has existed now for as long as Xamarin.Forms, almost, I think. You know, it's cutting it close. But there has been now 18 months, I think, at the time of recording, where there wasn't much development. Michael Ritland, the author of FreshMVvm, put out a little statement on why that is. One, he was just very busy. That can happen. And two, you know, Xamarin.Forms has been, or the MVVM part of Xamarin.Forms, let's say that, hasn't really been evolving. I mean, it's a concept. If it's in there, it's in there. And there isn't really much to add to that. So also because of that, you know, FreshMVvm didn't really need to have to see some major development in that area as well. But now Michael Ritland came out with a tweet with a statement that there is a new version of FreshMVvm right now for you to use. So we're going to check that out. And even better, he said that there will be versions for .NET MAUI, so that's going to be really, really great. I think he's planning to do that, to have the same day support as .NET MAUI is coming out. So that is really good news. Now let's hop over to the GitHub page, check out a little bit some of the features, and near the end I'm going to show you a little bit actually in code. I'm thinking that this will be a series, so if you're liking this FreshMVvm thing, please let me know down in the comments, and I will make more, probably on how to do navigation with FreshMVvm, how to do dependency injection with FreshMVvm, and of course all the stuff that you want to see. So go down there in the comments. While you're there, click that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, or maybe check out that join button and see what a membership to my channel looks like. But let's just go check out a little bit of what FreshMVvm is exactly. Whoosh! Okay, there we are on the GitHub page of Reduce. That's the nickname of Michael Ritland, probably inspired by his last name. I don't know if I pronounce it correctly. Here we have Michael Ritland himself, the author of this package. So thank you so much, Michael, for putting this out there. I've had the pleasure of meeting him at the Microsoft campus, actually. And he is in Australia, so that is really great. Thank you for putting this together. So also, like here, the about, that's kind of like the thing that I already mentioned, is a super light MVVM framework designed specifically for Xamarin.Forms, and it's designed to be easy, simple, and flexible. Well, that's kind of what my experience is with it as well. So that is cool. I think Tiny MVVM kind of has the same thing. I didn't check that out, but if you're interested in me going through more MVVM frameworks, let me know. I don't have anything to do anyway, so I can just record another video. So let's check out, how does it compare to others? Super light, super simple, which, you know, it doesn't say that here, but it really just adds the missing bits from Xamarin.Forms. And I say the missing bits, it's not something that Xamarin.Forms or .NET MAUI will actually start doing, I think, because that is where these MVVM frameworks come in, right? And people like different things. People like to do certain things differently, so there will always be room for MVVM frameworks, and that is also the reason why Xamarin.Forms or .NET MAUI will never kind of implement or force that kind of navigation stuff on you, or all the features that you're about to see here. Something that is happening with Shell, so that's kind of your opinionated way to build a certain app, but for kind of like the vanilla Xamarin.Forms or .NET MAUI, that's not going to happen, so that more power users, if you will, can make choices about how how they want to implement this stuff. Specifically designed for Xamarin.Forms to be easy, learn, develop. Convention over configuration. Now that's something interesting. I'll go into that a little bit later, but it basically means that your page and your page model are matched based on their names rather than over configuration. So you have to specify a XML or JSON or, oh my goodness, YAML file. Where you can configure like where it has to match like which page to which page model. FreshMVvm doesn't need that configuration. It knows it by its name. Now, of course, one or the other with the configuration, you have to write some code that you have to maintain. With the convention, you have to adhere to certain naming, and also there might be a very minor performance hit because it has to, find the right page based on the name and maybe some reflection. So there's pros and cons to everything. But I never noticed any big lag on this or whatever, and I really like that I can just add the files and it will pick that up automatically rather than me having to go in and do some more configuration to actually make it pick up the new page or the new page model. So that's what I like about this framework. Now let's see what we have for features. So page model to page model navigation, which is great, right? If you do the navigation, you normally go to a page, but then if you want to swap out a page, then you have to go into the code and change it, right? So with page model to page model navigation, you can say, hey, I want to navigate to this page model, and FreshMVvm will figure out what page it needs to add to actually match that page model. So whenever you add a new view, whenever you're going to redesign that page, you don't have to touch anything basically. As long as you give it the proper name, it will automatically pick up that new view, and the new view is applied whenever you implement it. So that's really cool. Automatic wiring of the binding context. So whenever you have used a little bit of MVVM in Xamarin.Forms, you know that you have to specify the binding context manually. FreshMVvm is going to do that for you, so you don't need to think about that anymore. Automatic wiring of the page event. So I think this is where FreshMVvm got a little bit of critique. That it also knows from the page model you can actually have some knowledge about the page, so you can actually go out to the page and do some things there. And also it wires up like to the events of the actual page, so the on appearing has a matching event also in the page model that you can hook into. So that is one of the things that makes it not exactly clean, separated MVVM entirely, but I never bothered with it that much. Also, if you decide not to use it, then you don't use it, and then there's no problem. So basic methods with values on page model. So you can do an init and a reverse init. So whenever you push a page or you pop a page, you can give some data back and whatever. This might sound all very abstract, but this is just the introduction. So this is all going to be handled in next video. So be sure to check them out as well. A built-in IOC container, but you can also use your own if that's what you want. But that's really cool because that means that you get the constructor injection automatically. So whenever you resolve a page model, you can just say, hey, I need these dependencies in here, and it will resolve that automatically, which is really cool. Basic methods in model like alert. So alerts are built-in. You don't need any separate services for that. Built-in navigation types for simple navigation, tabbed, and master details. So that is cool. So there's a little bit of a background story here, which is, keep in mind, this is a few years old, so this might be a little bit outdated here. I think there's also some videos by Michael Ritland himself which show Xamarin Studio, which was the predecessor of Visual Studio for Mac. So there's some really blast from the past stuff in there, but it's still because this MVVM framework is still largely the same, you can still get some value from that as well. So make sure to go check that out. Now the conventions, a page must have a corresponding page model. So whenever you create a page, it also needs a page model. We'll see that. So whenever you create a quote page model, there must also be a quote page, and it will find that automatically and it will wire up the binding context. So that's cool. Can have an init method, the reverse init method, and a page model can have dependencies automatically injected. So here's some stuff to get you started. Navigation, you can just say core methods push page model, and it will find the quote page that is attached to it, and it will show you that page. So push page, and you can see it gives you that page. You can also specify the own model, and you can say if it's modal, yes or no. So if it has to be the top thing, also the pop one. So you can find this out. So here we have the master detail. I think this needs to be updated to kind of like the flyout page is what it's called now in Xamarin.Forms. But actually, so a lot of stuff going in here, the dependency injection. Like I said, if you want to know all about this, more videos are coming. Oh my gosh, I'm getting so excited from all this stuff, from working with this again, so that is cool. Let's just hop over to Visual Studio and I'll give you a quick introduction sample of FreshMVvm. And here we are in Visual Studio for Mac 2019. On the left, you can see that running. This is just a file, new Xamarin.Forms application that you get out of the box. The template is what it is. It's not running on the right, as you might expect from my videos by now, because I first need to install the FreshMVvm NuGet package, of course, and also just have to stop and restart the application. So let me just do that right now. So let's go over to the Solution Explorer, right-click on the solution. Actually, I can right-click on our shared project. So here's the Android and iOS one, but just on the shared project, let's right-click Manage NuGet Packages, because I only need to install FreshMVvm on my shared package, because it doesn't do anything with renderers on the platform or something like that. It only lives in the shared code. So here you can see came out 30th of June, which is quite recent at the time of recording. So let's just add the package, version 401. Let's load that for a little bit. It needs some dependencies, so let's just accept the licenses for that. Everything that is needed will be pulled down, and FreshMVvm is successfully added. So great win. That's it. Thank you for watching. No, I'm kidding. There's going to be more. So let's update the title, and let's just make this FreshMVvm intro sample. There we go. Save that, and actually it's going to be a pretty boring demo, because it's just going to show you a page that you normally would see as well. So let's actually just start it right now. I'm gonna have to stop it in a little bit, but this is our main page. So normally what you do, right, is we go into our app XAML CS right here, and it says like, hey, main page, new main page. There we go, right? That's it. And it just news up this page, but whenever you want to change something, you have to go into the code here, and you need to change that page, or you need to go into this main page code behind right here, and you need to set that binding context. Here we go to our new main page model, right? I don't have that right now, but you will have to wire up that for the binding to work, the data binding to work. And that's all stuff that we can fix. We can do much easier with FreshMVvm. So actually, let me stop this right now. I'm going to add a couple of new folders. So add new folder, which I'm going to name page models. I think you can also work with views and view models. I think both conventions are supported, but I like the page one actually. So page models, and let's add the new folder. There we go, pages. So now we have that, and whenever we would create normally a new class, so we would create a main page model, right? Empty class, there we go. And I would add here a public string hello world, which needs to be a property, right? For the data binding to work is I don't know, let's make this something random, like what comes to mind? Have you subscribed to my channel yet? Right? Have you? So that is just something random that I thought of. And this is just a string that I can use now for data binding, right? So if I go to my main page, I can remove all of these labels, and I can here say binding hello world, so it knows what it will have to look for. I have some more videos on data binding already, and of course this is coming, so I'm going quite fast now, assuming that you have a little bit of basic understanding of how MVVM works. If you do not have that, please let me know in the comments, and I will make videos on a little bit more intro into MVVM for you to see if I can pull that off. And here we have then the main page example CS. So if I set then the binding context is new main page model, I need to add the right using here. So IntelliSense using FreshMVvm intro sample.page models. There we go. And whenever I run this now, I think I got it all. So the example page will come up. It will go look for binding hello world. It will look into its binding context. It will find the main page model, and it will find here this hello world property. And that's what's going to be shown on screen. Boom. Yes, I did it. I'm a 10 times developer. Woohoo! So there we have this one. But this is, a lot of stuff. And imagine that you have a big app with a lot of pages. So you have to go through each of these pages, set the binding context, etc., which is not nice, right? So, but we have FreshMVvm installed, and that's great, which will make our lives easier. So I can just remove this. There we go. I can keep my main page model in here. But what I need to do is add FreshMVvm dot base page model. So you need to inherit from this base page model, which will give you a lot of stuff kind of for free. So also the iNotify property changed. More on that on other videos. It will give you toolbar items, previous page model, so you can see the page that you're actually coming from, the current page. So that's what I mentioned. That's kind of like, not clean MVVM maybe. The init, the reverse init, view is appearing, view is disappearing, and a lot of other stuff. So, but it needs that to, have a certain methods that it can invoke and whatnot. So you need to have your page model inherit from that fresh base page model. Now here, we don't need to do anything. This page, we can just keep it like this. We don't need to set the binding context, and our main page then is hello world. And because this is named main page and this is called main page model, it will automatically connect that to each other and set the binding context. Now, I think if I run this, it will break. So don't worry if that happens. Don't panic. Just stay in your seat. I think it might break because one of the things that we need to do is also put it like there is what it, oh, it actually, well, it kind of works, but it doesn't really work. Ah, of course. So there's one thing I forgot. Haha, of course. So now, of course, we need to do this new main page. It just uses this page, right? But now, whenever we want to go to a page, we need to go through FreshMVvm, right? In order to actually light it up, in order to actually make all those connections with the page model and the pages and all the methods that need to be invoked. So now we need to go here and say FreshMVvm, fresh page model resolver, and we need to resolve the page model. And here we can just specify the type. So I can just say main page model, and it will, because you specify the model and it will know what the page is, right, by the convention. So I can just say this, and this results in a page. So I can set the main page to that, and it will do that automatically. So now this is basically the only point where you need to do this, but because from here you can just use that navigation service to navigate to other main page models. But for that first main page, you need to resolve it. And this also is needed for the dependency injection to work, all that kind of stuff. Now, when I run this, I think it might break, this time for real. Because part of the convention is that you need to add it in a certain namespace. Here you see. So now it says main page is not found. It looks kind of scary, right? Pages, main page not found. And this is kind of the key thing, pages. So whenever you have these things, you also need to move the main page up to the pages. Well, if you actually move it into the folder, that's up to you. But what you do need to do is make sure that it's in the right namespace. So you have to put this in the pages. I also need to update it here in the XAML pages. Main page, and the page model needs to be in the page models, right? So it has this convention where it goes looking for the specific pages and page models. So that is kind of the convention thing that you need to know before you start doing this. And now when I run this, it's not going to be very, very exciting because we're going to see the same page. But what is exciting is that we can do it with writing less code, right? I don't need to set up that binding context. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, right? This is just a minor kind of win. But if we get down to more like the navigation stuff, then you will see that this is so much easier, and it has a couple of very cool things. So here you can see that binding hello world, it went from the name main page to this main page model. It found that out automatically. It has to be in the right namespace, but from there, you're good to go. And whenever you have gotten into that mindset, FreshMVvm will make your life with Xamarin.Forms apps just that little bit much easier. I hope you liked this introduction into my favorite MVVM framework, FreshMVvm. Like I already mentioned, please tell me in the comments what there is that you want to see about MVVM in general, or MVVM frameworks, maybe other frameworks. I will make a couple of more on FreshMVvm for sure as we're approaching .NET MAUI and all the development that's going to be happening in FreshMVvm. I'm more than happy to teach you how it works so that we can spread a little FreshMVvm love. Thank you again for watching. watching. If you've liked this video, please click that like button, and also while you're down there, please check if that subscribe button is already on. If not, please click that subscribe button, maybe the little bell, so you'll be notified of that new FreshMVvm content automatically. And other than that, I'll be seeing you for my next video. Keep coding.